Hey, thanks everybody for joining us today. Live Music Nation Podcast Festival Edition. Today's a little different. Today we are with Shanette Cohen. She is with the Hampton Classic Horse Show. It's an 8-day horse show. Shanette, thanks for joining us. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me.
Good. Hey, give us a little background on you. Where'd you grow up? Talk a little bit about your family and your career.
Sure. So I grew up in Westchester County, which is about an hour north of New York City, Manhattan, and then also actually in the city as well. My dad lived in the city, and I lived with my mom and stepdad and my twin sister and other siblings. Sort of through, you'd need a flow chart, but in up in Westchester, and I grew up riding horses, and then eventually I made my career now running a horse show. So that was a good fit for me.
What was that? What was that transition like? How did you get into the horse show business?
So nothing's a straight line, right? So I started when I first got out of college. I went to college in Western Massachusetts. When I first got out of school, I went to Washington, D.C., and I worked down there in politics actually for a while, and then got with an event marketing and lobbying firm. And actually, at the time, the Hampton Classic was one of their clients, but it was many years later that that was sort of just a coincidence. But I then moved back to New York and was working for the U.S. Equestrian Federation. At the time, it was called the American Horse Shows Association. I ran their marketing and development program there. And then they relocated to Kentucky, and I didn't want to move. So I started taking on different projects and started my own firm called Barth Group. Barth is my maiden name. And I did a lot of event marketing. So I did sponsorship programs for different nonprofit and other events, as well as organizing and executing those sponsorships, as well as running some corporate events. So I did things for Vivendi Universal and Seagram, and then some of the nonprofits, Volunteers of America, and the National Horse Show, which was at Madison Square Garden at the time, was also a client. So I still kept my fingers in the horse world while I was getting to know more about event marketing and event management. And then about 18 years ago, which blows my mind that it was so long ago, the husband and wife team, who were the executive directors at the Hampton Classic, were retiring, and I had worked with Tony, the husband, through the National Horse Show, which had been at the Garden, and he let me know that they were retiring and might I be interested in looking into pursuing the job as executive director here at the Hampton Classic. And so I went for it and ended up getting the position, and I love it. You know, it's there. Of course, not every day in a job that you love even is perfect, but really it's not a job when you love what you do. So
Sure.
it's been great.
Absolutely. Okay, let's jump into the show. For the listeners that have never been there before, I always just kind of say, let's answer these three questions. What does it look like? What does it smell like? Meaning food generally, but we got in the environment. And what does it sound like? What kind of activities are going on?
Sure, absolutely. So we're about 60 acres here in Bridgehampton, the heart of the Hamptons, east end of Long Island. And we have about 1,500 horses that are participating and competing in the different competitions throughout an 8-day competition, 8-day horse show. So lots of different competitions. So it looks like a lot of horses riding around, but also sort of a fair festival type atmosphere. We get about 50,000 people through the showgrounds over the 8 days. We have about 80 different shops here, which they have. Most of it's not horse related. I mean, we do have some vendors that sell saddles or boots or that kind of thing, but we also have vendors who are selling apparel and artwork and jewelry and or housewares, not appliances, but
Sure.
tabletop and linens and stuff. And then we have a kids area and pony rides and interactive activities. So that's sort of what it looks like. We've got some VIP tents around our premier show jumping competition ring. And people who are familiar with the sport, what they'll see is horses jumping. So for almost all of our competitions include some kind of jumping. We do have some what's called flat, so walk, trot, canter type competitions, but most of the competitions we have here are jumping. Either show jumping, which is jump big jumps fast, don't knock them down, or show hunters, which is judged subjectively by the judges about how beautifully the horses are jumping the jumps. So those are the two different types of competitions we have. So from a smell standpoint, depends on what part of the showgrounds you're in. You know, if you're in the food court, you're probably smelling some good fair food, as well as, you know, there's all kinds of stuff here. You know, we're in the Hamptons, so we have vendors that have lobster rolls. We have a pizza truck. We have a slider truck that has, you know, your traditional burger sliders, but they also have like seared tuna and some more, you know, off the beaten path kind of delicious food. We're going to have a new vendor this year, actually, that will have sushi. We have someone who has Mexican food. Our main food court vendor has sort of a Greek slant too, so he has gyros and those kinds of foods.
Does the classic have a traditional food that everybody gets, like the Masters has the pimento sandwich?
Yeah.
Do you have anything like that?
So sort of. We had a guy, it was Harry's Lemonade, and his line, that's all he made was lemonade, and his line went forever. And he doesn't come here anymore. He's based in Florida, and he's getting older, and it's a big trek for him to get up here. So last year we had someone else doing lemonade, and it was not the same. We got an earful from many people that it was not the same. So we have put the guy who did it last year in touch with Harry, who I saw when I was in Florida this winter, and I'm like, Harry, everyone missed you, and it's not the same. And will you talk to him about your recipe? What is the perfect recipe for lemonade? And he said he'd talk to him. So hopefully it will be closer to the formula this year.
There you go. Maybe he can just trademark it and people can still do Harry's lemonade.
You wouldn't think lemonade would be that complicated. I think it just needed more lemon, but it's fresh. You know, they squeeze it right there in front of you. But yeah, so that's probably it.
The importance of this to your community. Talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So that's a great question. We are really a fixture. We like to say our tagline is the perfect end to a perfect summer. We happen the very end of the summer, finish up Labor Day weekend. The Hamptons is a summer destination for a lot of people. And we are a fixture here. And it is an event that's for everyone. You know, people come with their families. One of the challenges about being in the Hamptons is the traffic is bananas. But that's sort of a positive too. Once people are here, they're not going anywhere. So they spend a lot of time. They check out all the different competitions and the activities and the vendors and all of the stuff that's happening here. So yeah, that's what I would say.
You've had a lot of history with the Classic, whether you're administrating it or attending in the past. What's one of your greatest memories that you have of the Classic Horse Show?
So it's funny. So I competed here starting when I was a kid. Actually, before it was on this showgrounds, we were in East Hampton up until the early 80s, and then moved to these showgrounds. So I rode there, and then I rode here. And then I came as a spectator. But I don't remember what year it was. It might have been like 2000, 2001. Before I started working here, I was riding as I was just riding as an amateur, and I got to ride in our Grand Prix ring, which that really was my highlight for me. That was back actually when I was working for a company that had Crown Royal as a client. Crown Royal was the sponsor of our Grand Prix, and they also it wasn't R at the time because I wasn't working here, but the Hampton Classic Grand Prix was sponsored by Crown Royal, and they also sponsored a few riders. And so my boss, I was here with my boss, I was also showing, but we were also the sponsor. And when I got to ride out there, he's like, oh, this is going to be more branding for the client. And he put the saddle pad on. He's like, you have to wear this. And it has the Crown Royal logo. And I'm some, rinky-dink amateur rider. I'm like, I don't want the sponsor logo on what if I don't, what if I crash and burn? Like, this is not a good idea.
Yeah.
Like, no, you have to do it. It's added value for the client. I'm like, okay. And I ended up doing just fine. But riding out in that field and also having like a sponsor logo, which amateurs never do, like that was very cool. That would probably be my highlight.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. Okay. What are some things that you guys offer that the non-equestrian lover would be entertained by?
So in our kids area, and Saturday, we go Sunday to Sunday. So the Saturday of the final weekend, we have kids activities and circus performers and free pony rides and all of that. So whether you ever see a horse, I mean, you might see the ponies and the pony rides, you would still have fun. The shopping, we have some people who come just for the shopping. And in fact, Monday is sort of a dark day. We that's when a lot of horses are shipping in and out. We do have some riders with disabilities competitions that day. And you can see horses being exercised, but there's not a lot of competition going on that Monday. But that's a great day for people to come and just shop because there's no admission. And we do have a lot of folks that show up for that. Also, that Monday is our adoption day. So we have dog and cat rescues and horse rescues with adoptable animals. So people will come specifically for that. So like the shopping is key. The food, actually, we have a lot of food trucks and a lot of really good food here. And then also the sport, you know, even people who don't know much about show jumping, the horses are beautiful. Like it is fun to watch. Even when, you know, and they don't know, people don't always know what they're watching. So when they're just watching the warm-up ring, it might be just as exciting as when they're watching a competition. But the nice thing about having been here this long is the general public here in the Hamptons, even if they've never sat on a horse in their lives or really know, you know, people who ride, they become fans of the sport and they come year after year and they're pretty educated. So our grandstands on the final Sunday will be packed. And so the way the sport works, I don't know if you're familiar, the first round, all the horses and riders, they go one at a time. They have to keep the jumps up, but they also can't be too slow. They don't have to be especially fast, but they can't be too slow. There's a maximum time allowed. So all the horses and riders that go in the first round that are clear, that didn't have any faults from knocking rails down or go too slowly, qualify for the jump off. And then at the jump off, they have to, again, don't knock them down, but then whoever goes the fastest without knocking them down is the winner. So that gets really exciting. They go one at a time. You know what time they have to beat.
Sure.
The crowd just erupts. It is really great to see that they're and also some riders, even in the first round, like when we have Olympians or people who've done really well here in the past, when they walk in the ring, all of a sudden you can hear it get quiet. Even if the VIP tents and grandstands are packed and people are enjoying themselves, they start paying attention. So that's always fun.
Very cool. Very cool. Yes, that's I love how they score it like that. It makes it like I said, it makes it fun to watch even for the observer who doesn't have a horse in the game. To use that analogy as it goes through there. Okay, now listen, I am in live music and live entertainment, so I always ask these next two questions at every interview, whether you have entertainment at your venue or not. I like to survey the country. So, Shanette, what is the best concert you've ever been to your entire life?
So you said I was expecting live performance. So I will tell you the best concert, but I was thinking the best live performance was actually a show jumping situation.
Okay.
But that's okay. So let's see. The best concert I've attended, I actually think, you know, it's kind of funny. I saw Elton John at the Garden forever ago, and I went with my mom, and I was in high school, but she got the tickets, and she said, "You want to go with me?" And it was really the best concert I've ever been to. So it was
okay.
That was really great.
So go back to what your first answer was going to be. What's the best performance you've ever seen?
So the most exciting performance for me was in 2017 in Omaha at the World Cup Finals of show jumping. American McLean Ward, who's a 5-time Olympian, he's won multiple gold medals, was the winner, the ultimate winner. But it got down to the final ride where he had to be clear. So he couldn't knock anything down. He had to be quick to win. And that's like a 5-round thing over multiple days. So he was leading, but he didn't have any room for error. And when he finished, the crowd it was insane that the noise that kept going for minute after minute after minute. It was really incredible to watch. Wow. So that was probably, I got a little misty watching it. So that was probably.
No, that would definitely leave an impact on a person for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Dead or alive, if let's say you're going to do a benefit concert at the end of the Classic, dead or alive, you could bring any one musical act to the Classic, raising money for one of your best charities. Who would you bring?
You know, personally, I would probably want to have like James Taylor, just because I could listen to him all day long. I mean, I guess if I'm trying to raise money, Taylor Swift, you know, I guess it depends on what my goal is, right? And I'm sure I would love to see her perform as well. So those would be two that come to mind, just sort of what I could listen to all day long, and then who I think would really pack the stands.
Yeah, no, for sure. That'd be great. Okay, I've been a little selfish here, asking you a ton of questions. This is a segment of the show where you get to ask me a question. Shanette, what would you ask me?
So actually, my question is horse related. Have you been to any, whether it's a rodeo or show jumping or horse racing, have you been into any live equestrian events, and what were your thoughts?
Yes, so I used to team rope. I still have horses. Matter of fact, I'm looking over my computer right now, making sure that they're I've got them tied in the yard, just grazing some grass that I don't want to mow. And so yes, I'm thinking back to like maybe a couple of state fairs where we watched some true show jumping. But I have a TikTok channel, and that does really, really well with rodeo clips. But one of my best videos is a show jumper who the horse just decided it wasn't going to go, and dumped the rider, and it was, everybody was safe and everybody was fun, but it was a humorous event. And at the time, and the video has done really well. So that's kind of been my experience in the show jumping world. I once trained to go to Custer, South Dakota in the spring to do their buffalo roundup. And one of their requirements was your horse had to be able to jump 3 foot, whether it be a log or a crick or whatever. And so we were gearing up, and my horse could do it, but it's not the easiest in a Western saddle. And so we didn't go on that trip because I just didn't want to mess with it. But yeah.
It's true. Most horses can probably jump 3 feet anyway, but you're right. It's something that you should practice, because 3 feet's no joke. Like, that's a sizable obstacle when you're sitting up there. When you're standing on the ground, it doesn't seem that large, but
right.
If you something you don't do regularly, that could absolutely be the case.
Yeah, it is. Good questions. Shanette. How do people find out more about the Hampton Classic and where they can get tickets, lodging, things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So hamptonclassic.com is our website. We will have more information as tickets for our grandstands for the final Sunday don't go on sale till August 1st, but there's all kinds of updates that will continue to be rolled out on our website about the schedule and what's going to be happening. For folks who either don't want to come the final Sunday, or well, really, if they don't want to come the final Sunday, they wouldn't need a reserved ticket. There's no reserved seating on those days. They just pay their $20 at the gate for a whole carload of people, so they can have one person in a car or 6 people in a car. It's still the same $20.
Oh, that's great.
And then all the bleachers and seating, grandstands is included with that. So then once they're on the showgrounds, they can just enjoy themselves. So we'll have more information on that. What rescues will be there for Adoption Day, what other fun activities we have planned for Kids Day or during the week. That will all be put up on our website as we get closer.
Perfect. All right, Shanette, thanks very much for being on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for inviting me.
You bet. Bye.
Well, baby,